I was sitting there and I was watching this episode, and I remember going back to last season where Hugo Strange was going off and was using characters from books and to kind of help to give people personalities to kind of help new identities, and they had kind of hinted with Alice. He was reading Alice in the Looking Glass that he was that there might have been the Mad Hatter there, but he clearly states at the beginning of the episode when he hires Jim Gordon that his sister was sent to Indian Hill, and that he himself was not in there.
Yes, and I think that was very very clever.
So I'm a little puzzled. Are we going to? Is there another character?
What I'm really curious on is when they start introducing a lot more from Indian Hill. But you look at already, and I really think we need to cut this part short so we can go for a musical break before we come back to talk about this even more, as per our usual schedule that we never keep.
What's the schedule?
Yeah, no kidding. You look at the guy, and I can't think of a name for what to call him because they haven't actually said anything about him. It's like the clone of Bruce Wayne.
I believe he refers to himself as being 5.
Yes, which really is very similar in an eerie way to Stranger Things when the girl's name is 11.
11, yes.
But this is in a less creepy way.
Who they had based off a character from an anime series who was known as Elfie.
Yes. So, we digest a lot.
We digress. I mean, it's, to take a page out of Alice in Wonderland, we like to go down the rabbit hole quite a bit around here.
Yes, and there's your, Alice in Wonderland pun there.
We use that phrase quite a bit on this show.
We do.
So it seems very apropos considering who and what we're discussing tonight.
Yes, but before we actually continue, let's do our musical break now, because if we don't do it now, we're going to continue going down a rabbit hole, and before we know it, we're going to be too big to continue.
That's what she said. I don't know.
So enjoy our music, and we will be right back. Guys, and welcome back to the Captain Fizz Mask Guys show. As always, we constantly talk during the break, which is pretty much entertaining. So we were actually talking once again about The Walking Dead because Weem and I were having a conversation.
Yeah.
And
I hate it when you guys are talking more geek than I understand.
I know. And you can't really say The Walking Dead is geek because
it is geek.
No, because everybody likes it, not just geeks, which makes it geek-esque. Royalty geek? High geek? Instead of high German, it's high geek. So that was my bad joke of the day.
Oh, God.
We were talking, of course, about the Mad Hatter.
We were talking about Mad Hatter, yeah.
The wolf from The Walking Dead that Morgan helped and then eventually turned into a zombie. An epic zombie, I might add. And then I think he got his brains blown out.
Which is generally the best way to take care of a zombie, from what I understand.
I like the part where they cut off the jaws and then walk around with like zombie dogs, but they're like people and they're like zombie people dogs. I don't know. That's my favorite part.
All right.
If a zombie apocalypse happened, that's what I would do.
If a zombie apocalypse were to happen, I think I would be trying to find myself a samurai sword because that seems to be the best weapon to take care of.
Crossbow. I can take you out and you won't even hear me coming. Ha ha. No. So let's get back to the Mad Hatter and 5, of course.
And it's amazing because 5 was, of course, introduced and season 2's season finale. And it's just
very briefly.
It's just like a 30 seconds. Not even. I think he pops up on the screen for like maybe 10, 15 seconds, and he's gone.
Yeah, it was basically it was the very final one where it's looking into the camera, which was very awesome because then you're like, okay, I gotta wait till next season to find out what the hell just happened. And
we went off, and this character is kind of went from 0 to 60 in less than an hour. So and I kind of called it. I mean, he's definitely gonna go off and kind of be messing around. He's definitely messing around with Kat a bit.
Yes, he's a very clever kid, which is why he really reminds me of one of those episodes where the guy actually was able to turn his face into Gordon.
Oh yeah,
and had the same voice.
Yeah,
Clayface really reminds me of a younger version of Clayface, which is very curious.
It is definitely curious. I mean, we've seen he definitely seems to be a very good fighter. He doesn't feel any pain, which
is kind of scary.
And that might eventually lead to Selena being able to figure out that he is in fact not Bruce Wayne. At this point, he has went off. He's cut his hair short after spending a couple of days with Bruce Wayne, and has decided he's going to imitate her because he is
imitate him because he is infatuated with Selena, which is, I don't know. I'm kind of curious where this is going to go. Somehow I have a funny feeling that she's not exactly his main target. I just have this funny feeling that there's something more to this storyline.
I think it could be interesting because I mean, in my opinion, they very likely may have created. He may have been created originally by Hugo Strange or by someone, or by someone at the Court of Owls to eventually take Bruce Wayne's place.
I don't think there's any doubt. I think without, a doubt that he was actually created by Hugo Strange. The thing, though, is why. I don't necessarily believe it was just for the owls or, whatever birds of prey they call themselves these days. But I think there's just something very important. The other part is maybe Bruce Wayne had a twin that we never knew about.
Well, if you look at the scars that he has, it may be that he didn't originally look like Bruce, and that they went off, in fact, do some sort of surgery to go off and to alter his appearance.
A very likely scenario, actually. But we won't know until they finally, reveal it. And I guarantee... Oh, I just had a weird thought come to my mind.
Okay.
What if it's actually Jerome underneath a plastic face or something of that sort put over top to make him look like Bruce Wayne? It's so crazy, it just might work.
It could be. Although we were told that, I think the producers had suggested that Jerome would be coming back, but we wouldn't see him possibly until next season.
Exactly. We don't see him because Bruce Wayne's face is over top of it. See, that would be the most clever way to hide it. We've brought him back.
It would go off, and in a weird way, it would be kind of a link into actually one of the Jokers. Now, we know that in DC's universe, there's now apparently 3 Jokers. And one of them has actually removed the skin on his face. So there definitely seems to be almost a tie-in here. So that actually might be the most intelligent thing you have said.
I don't know. It's just
about the show for a while.
It just seems like this very possible scenario that could be playing out. Now, I could be full of it, and it's actually, just some sort of mutation that, whatever. But wouldn't that be awesome if that's what it is?
Absolutely. That is just downright, that's mind-blowing, that whole theory.
The greatest twist in TV history would be if the Joker is underneath Batman's face.
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't the world just, revolt?
It very well might.
And remember, if it comes true, just remember, you heard it here
absolutely.
first.
We're going to be coming out here and say, Captain told you so.
Yeah, and if it's wrong, I'll probably say, well, it should have been that way instead.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know?
I refuse. I think it would be the best way to go.
Yeah,
what way to show that Joker's absolutely a maniacal, twisted person than to wear someone else's face?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, definitely, I mean, we did, you know, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, how we felt that the season opener was kind of lackluster.
And it was.
And, yeah, it absolutely was. But, I mean, they seem to be, you know, taking off really fast here. I mean,
yes.
They're going almost at the warp speed.
The second episode was also still a little slow. I wasn't a big fan of it. But the third episode is definitely very intriguing.
It's definitely a very interesting season for the show. Okay, now, you know, the title of the show is Fluff You
Palooza,
no less. So,
most clever name.
Well, yes.
Patent pending.
Very ingenious, and we may have to tag Gabriel in this.
I tagged Fluffy.
You tagged Fluffy,
but it probably won't be him.
Yeah. So
Fluffy.
So
I'm not fat. I'm Fluffy.
Yes. So over the weekend, I had a chance to go see Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah, I'm still pissed off at you about this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was going to go, and I'm like, oh, it's niece's birthday party. I can't go.
Yeah. So yes. But what actually happened is that his show, he had the show here last Thursday. That show was sold out. And so
it's Fluffy. Of course it's sold out.
And so they went off and they actually, you know, asked him if he'd be willing to come back on Sunday to do another show, which he was. And that show was pretty much sold out as well. My wife and I managed to go. And it was pretty good. You know, where to begin on this? So
did he make fun of Winnipeg?
He did not make fun of Winnipeg.
Then he's not a comedian.
Although, you know, he went off and he was talking about how great Canada was, and then some, you know, idiot went off and, you know, yelled out a name which I can't remember, and when, you know, Gabriel called him out on it, and says, "Who's that?" And so, "Oh, he's a famous Canadian comedian." And says, "Oh, you know, everyone's like kind of shrugging their shoulders because most of us don't know who the heck this guy was talking about." And so, and the guy goes, so he, you know, tries to get some more information out of this guy about him, and he says, "Well, let me put it this way: he's in worse shape than you are." And he's lucky that it was Gabriel and not the guy who opened up the show for Gabriel. Because Gabriel, you know, he went off and he came back with a pretty good zinger, and, you know, kind of, you know, did a couple of jokes at his expense throughout the show, but he didn't go off and didn't go brutally after him. For people who don't know, Gabriel Iglesias is like 400 pounds. He's got type 2 diabetes. At one point, he had been actually told by his doctors that he wasn't going to live for a year. And, you know, he managed to, you know, prove them all wrong. So, I mean, it was like, ooh. But, I mean, it was great, though, his comeback on that. And Gabriel was very, you know, good throughout the entire night. He went up and, you know, told some great stories. He told a story about doing a podcast with Stone Cold Steve Austin, which I thought was absolutely great, where they just absolutely got smashed. And then him having, you know...
Hey, that sounds like an awesome podcast.
And then getting...
We've never had experience on that one.
I think only on one episode.
The very first episode. I actually don't remember much about the episode. And not just because it's over a year ago. I was probably pretty toasted the entire episode. But that's because this was our first time ever. And
we had absolutely no idea what
as the light came on saying, okay, you're now doing this, I'm looking at it going, oh crap, what do I say?
Yeah, but you know what? It was good. My favorite part, though, was that Gabriel he has, you know, great stories. He also tends to go over. And so he had finished telling all the jokes that were on his set, and he started going off and telling some of his classic stories. And people were actually saying the jokes along with him. So he was saying, "Hey, you guys are doing comedy karaoke," which was
I've been to so many different comedy shows across Canada with multiple different people before, right? And I've never took part in a comedy karaoke because generally I've never seen these guys before, and I'll probably